Okay, guys, welcome back to another instalment of our podcast show, our Insight Interviews. Today we're very fortunate again to be welcomed by Mr. John Dix, a great high school coach in Mississippi. John, welcome to the chat, mate. If we could just start with you kind of giving a brief introduction about yourself and your kind of career so far and how you've got to where you've got in the game of football and soccer.
Okay, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. This will be my 25th year coaching. Started back when I was about 18 as a player when I just graduated high school and started to go into college and play. Still doing coaching at the same time. Currently, I'm the head men's and women's coach at Petal High School and also the director of soccer for the district. After June 1st, though, I'll be just the men's coach and the director as well. We have a new women's coach that's going to take over the women's team. Really, got started in coaching as soon as I graduated high school. Just loved the game and want to be involved in teaching young kids. And that's one of the things I enjoy now is working with the kids in the area as far as coaching them.
Fantastic. Obviously, you talk about the area and coaching kids. What area actually are you located? John, obviously, I know you're in Petal. I mean, for those that don't know where Petal is, where is that in the planet, mate?
It's southeast Mississippi. Is where we are. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere almost. I mean, we're near Hattiesburg, which is a bigger city in Mississippi, but we're just kind of out in the middle of the country, and there's not a whole lot around us. We're a city of about 12,000 people now. So it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of New Orleans, and about an hour and a half south of Jackson in Mississippi. So kind of a small area.
Fantastic, man. Obviously, what roles have you had, John, in terms of football and soccer, and how have you been able to get them, John?
Well, I started out as a head coach. I think it was a U12 girls team. And then I played in college, and then got married. And throughout I was in the Air Force for the United States. I was in for about 15 years, and I was coaching teams wherever I went in the different states. I was out in California when I was playing, and then North Dakota where I was coaching and playing, and then in Nebraska, and then down to Texas. And Texas is really where it kicked off for me as far as my coaching career went. That's where I really got into coaching education, and then got hooked up with a former professional player named Lance Noble, and he was the director of coaching there, and he was also coach of the U14 team that my son played on. And that's where I really got started, got me tuned into coaching education, and started taking a bunch of licensing and diplomas with NSCAA at the time, which is now United Soccer Coaches, and with US Soccer, and really started to enjoy the game and coaching. Next became a director of coaching for that same club, which actually now, just recently, they changed and joined Surf out of California. So now they're a surf club in Texas. And I was director of coaching for that, president for one of those clubs there, and then came on board with a USL team that they started. I was a goalkeeper coach and assistant coach for a USL under 20 team that they had. For 1 year, we went to nationals and did pretty good at nationals. Didn't make it out of the first round in the second year. We went to nationals again, beat the Chicago Fire under 20 team in the first round. Actually finished two wins and a tie in that first round for the USL Championship, but didn't make it to the second round off of a tie that we had. But then moved to Mississippi right after that. And my boys made the high school team, and I volunteered to help the high school coach with goalkeeper training and being his assistant. And then after that, I took over the boys program at Petal the year after that. And, in that meantime, I was at William Carey with Nigel Bolton as his goalkeeper coach, and Danny Owens as his goalkeeper coach for men's and women's for a year. And then continued on with the men's program for another season, and came over here to Petal and took over the job here as the head men's coach. And then our women's coach, he decided to take a job at another school in the area, and so I took over the women's program. So I had two the men's and women's teams for a couple of years, and then being a director and a head coach for two teams is just a lot of work. So we found another head coach to come in for the women's team, and that's where we're at now. Is here coming up pretty soon. I'll just be coaching the men's team and being the director. We have a middle school team, which is 12 and 13-year-old kids. So we'll have 6 teams here at Petal pretty soon. When I got here, we only had 2 men's and women's varsity program. So the area is growing and it's expanding. A lot of our younger kids are finally playing club soccer and getting an enjoyment out of it. A lot of our elementary schools have put in soccer goals, so it's really coming along in the area.
Great stuff, mate. It's fantastic. Obviously, it's interesting when you talk about your journey, and obviously you've been a high school coach now, and the fact that you managed to kind of network with so many people and kind of go from A to B around the whole soccer football network to get where you've got. I mean, what made you first get into the game of football, of soccer, John, and kind of what made you fall in love with it?
I think I at the time I was about 8 years old, and it was up in the Delta of Mississippi, Northwest Mississippi. My mom felt like I needed something to do, and so we decided I'd play soccer. And it turned out I really loved it and enjoyed it. Then moved to Central Mississippi and continued playing there and playing club soccer there and through high school, and just really, really enjoyed it. Started out as a midfielder and converted to a goalkeeper when we had a team that had no goalkeeper. And they said, "Hey, who wants to play goalkeeper?" And I said, "I'll do it." Turns out I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, man. Obviously, kind of looking a bit forward more onto it. I mean, who is your favourite all-time coach and why? Obviously, you're a high school coach now. You've had regular success at Petal, and obviously you've built a fantastic program there in terms of the boys and girls team. And credit to you. Who's your favourite all-time coach, and why are they your favourite, John?
Well, honestly, I've been a fan of Manchester United as long as I can remember, and Sir Alex Ferguson has got to be my favorite coach. And not just saying that because he's one of the most popular coaches, but it just seemed like the way he could get the most out of his players, and how they would just do anything for him, and he was able to win so much hardware for his team and do so well in the time that he was there. Gone back and watched interviews with him and read books, and there's many good coaches out there, but I just really like what he's able to do with his teams.
Fantastic. Obviously, you're learning from the best. That's right. It's obviously one of, if not the greatest coaches ever. And in terms of that, John, I mean, what would you say it would take to make it as a player and as a coach? Obviously, what are the differences between the two? Because both roles are very different in terms of playing and coaching. What would you say it takes to make it as a player, and what would you say it then takes to make it as a coach, and obviously a high school coach, which is where you are now?
Right. Well, I can kind of take that to what is it? Because I don't know what it takes as far as making this a professional player. But I played 1 year in junior college, and then played with the Air Force. I think that you've got to have a lot of determination and be able to get past the hurdles, and everybody's going to experience failure. And can you take the failure that you experience and turn it into a positive? If we're always learning from our failures, then we're able to turn that into a positive and make yourself better. Kind of reviewing yourself after you've finished the game. What did I do better? What did I do good? Then taking that motivation and going and using that in your training sessions, your personal training sessions, and working on those things. I think, especially in the high school game, like where we're at, we have maybe half the kids play club and half the kids don't. So you got to, hope that they have a love for the game, but if they don't, helping them instill a love for the game. Getting the kids to watching games on TV, traveling to watch games, watching videos about soccer, trying to just get more of a love for the game. But being a player and then being a coach is just very different because for me personally, I think being a player helped me become a better coach. Having played it and then being able to be on the other side as a coach. But I think as a coach, to be a successful coach, one of the most important things you got to be able to do is to know your players and how do my players respond to instruction? Do I have a player that does well, especially when you're coaching in the girls' game and the boys' game? There are different ways that you coach, and you've coached both of them, so you understand that. But you coach girls differently than you do boys. And there's some players that you can yell instruction to them during a game, and it doesn't bother them. There's some other ones that you've got to be careful how you correct them during a game. Do I need to pull this kid aside and talk to him one-on-one? Or is this the kind of player that it doesn't bother him if I just yell instruction and correct them on their mistakes as the game goes? So I think that one of the biggest things is also having empathy for your players, understanding that everybody's different and they deal with positivity and success and failure all in different ways.
No, brilliant stuff. I think that's great advice and great insight, John. Obviously, looking more about the player itself now, I mean, you touch upon knowing your players. You know, what do you look for as a high school coach, John? I mean, what kind of player do you look for, and what do you look within players when you're kind of scouting and recruiting for your high school teams?
One of the things I look for is enthusiasm. Does the kid have energy? We've got some kids that have come into our program in, 6th and 7th grade, and maybe even as a freshman in high school that have never played before, but they're athletic. They have a desire to learn, and they're coachable. That's one of the biggest things I look for is, as a player, are you coachable? If I correct you on something, are you going to take that and run with it, or are you going to take it and be offended that I said something to you and, walk away and never do anything with it? So, especially in high school, that we have a combination of kids that have played, and kids that have never played until they got to us. And, if you're willing to work hard and you're willing to listen and be coached and put into practice what we teach you, then, we'll take a look at you and we might consider bringing you onto a program.
No, great stuff, man. Obviously, what advice would you give to anyone looking to have a career in the game, be it player, be it coach, even someone like a physio or whatever? I mean, what advice would you give to people that really want to get involved in football and soccer?
If you want to get involved with it and have a longer career, you've got to truly have a love for the game. You've got to love all aspects of it. I mean, you have to love putting in the work. You have to love winning and losing. Everybody hates to lose, but you got to be able to take that loss and use it to better yourself. And you have to be consistently learning and evolving. You can't just think that you've made it and that you don't need to ever do anything to get better. I think that's one of the biggest things as a coach and a player is looking for ways you can get better, looking for ways that you can strengthen your weaknesses and strengthen your strengths and get better and make those around you better as well.
No, great stuff, John. Obviously, I mean, you touched on it earlier, mate, obviously, in terms of the journey you've had and how long it's actually taken you to get to where you've got to. I mean, could you kind of go into a bit more depth of that now, John, and kind of, give us a bit more insight on how long it actually took you to get to become a high school coach and obviously the kind of sacrifices and endeavours you had to put in to get there in the first place?
I've only been coaching high school for about, this will be my 7th year coming up. But leading up to this point, I've coached club soccer most of my career. And, before we moved here to Texas, I was coaching at the U20 level, which really increased my desire to coach at the next level. I really enjoyed coaching with college players. We had some players on this U20 team that, when I was in San Antonio, they came from all over Texas. We had a goalkeeper from Missouri. And this was in the summertime, so this is when your collegiate players are looking for somewhere to play. And so we had kids that had former national team players. Had 2 brothers that played with the U.S. Youth National Team when they were 16, and they came to play with us. One of them went on to play at Oregon State. Then we had a kid a midfielder that went on to Akron and played with them. And so it was a great mixture of kids that were at a high level. And it was just such an enjoyable time to be able to coach kids that were at that level, where the games were just enjoyable and amazing to watch. And that's what really triggered my love to coach at the next level. And then when I got here to Mississippi, I reached out to Coach Mo, who's the USM coach, trying to get on there as a goalkeeper coach, but he had just filled that position with Sean Mampson. He used to be here in Hattiesburg. And then reached out to Danny, and he had already had his goalkeeper coach, which was a former player. And so I just kept asking around, kept working and volunteering my time, and that's how I got on high school at Petal, was just volunteering. But in the meantime, I got a call from from Nigel Bolton and Danny Owens at Carey saying, "Hey, we've got a goalkeeper position opening up. He's headed to LSU to coach the women's goalkeeper coach. You want to come in and talk?" And that's when I came in and talked to them and worked with their goalkeepers. Got to work with an amazing program, as you know, you were there. I left just before you came in. But, one of the ways I've gotten into the different places I've been is just talking to people and networking, like you said earlier. It's all about who you know or who that person knows. And, it just took off from there. I volunteered at the high school, and then they offered me a full-time job there. And it's just exploded from there. Our program has grown at Petal from, I think when I first got there, between the men's and women's programs, we had about 36, 40 kids. Now we have about 120 kids that are involved in our 6 different teams we have. And varsity, junior varsity on the men's and women's side, and then our junior high program, our middle school kids that they're joining as well, and we've got some great kids in our program.
No, great stuff, man. Obviously, perseverance is key, and obviously your work rate and your endeavour and your kind of will to never give up has definitely kind of stood you in good stead and got to where you are. And obviously, the networking too is massive. I mean, just in terms of the high school now, John, obviously someone that has run the program for a good while and built it. I mean, what would a typical day look like for a high school player in terms of the school and in terms of the plan? And what would a typical day look like for you as a high school coach?
For the high school players, I mean, that's what we call high school and even collegiate players, but they're student athletes. So the first thing that they should be concerned about is their schoolwork and their studies. That's the first thing they do when they come in. Is our soccer program for the school is at the end of the day, so they come in and they have their first 4 periods of the day until from about 8:30 to 2 o'clock is their studies. So they're different classes that they're taking, and then they come to me from we get to train with them from about 2:15 to almost 4 o'clock every day during school. So it's a class that they have. Is we were able to get soccer added as a PE class, a physical education class. A lot of our sports now have their own periods where we train at school. So that's been one of the biggest successes that we've had, is being able to have a couple hours with the kids year round, not just during our season between October and February, but being able to work with them in the weight room and being able to work with them on their fitness and their ball mastery. That's been one of the keys to being more successful with the kids is adding those 2 hours a day. And then at the end of the day, they either get on the bus or get in their parents' car and they go home. And some of them will continue on playing club soccer, so they'll train with us at the high school, and then they'll go train with their club team. And if they're in the middle of their club season and it's off season for us, we'll kind of tailor their training plan with us to where it's lighter with us, and that way they don't get overworked when they go with their club team. We got some other kids that are playing other sports as well, so we got some kids that are playing high school soccer, and then they'll play baseball and volleyball and basketball. So we got a lot of kids that are playing multiple sports. As far as I go, I get into my office about 8:30. So I'll be working on responding to emails, working on, if we're in season, entering stats from previous games. We've got our video system that I'll be going back and watching, different clips and highlights from previous games. Working on training sessions. That's what a lot of my time is looking at the previous games and training sessions, what went well, what didn't go well, and then so how can I change and tailor my training sessions to fit that, what the players need. I do a lot of evaluations as we go throughout the season, working with players one-on-one, talking to them, their strengths and weaknesses, and how they can improve and how they can get better. And I do a lot of communication with collegiate coaches as well about our kids and helping get them marketed as well to play at the next level. So that's about a typical day for me.
No, brilliant stuff, man. It sounds very thorough, and obviously you take your job very seriously, which is great. I mean, where does John Dix see himself in the future, John? Obviously, you've kind of got to where you've got, and again, you've done great. Where do you see yourself, and how are you kind of going to get yourself there?
I really enjoy seeing soccer grow in the Petal area. We're working on getting a recreation program built in the city here. They had one years ago, but it's been probably 12 years. So working on getting that built back up. We enjoy doing camps in the summer. We have, well over 100 kids that come to our camp in the summertime that we host in the high school. Working on getting a club program started as well once we get the recreation program started. So my goal here is to be here as long as I can at Petal and continue to grow the love of the game in the area and outreach into the counties around us, because we're about as far east as soccer goes in this part of Mississippi. So just trying to expand and outreach to others in the area and increase that love for the game. If I could continue coaching for another 10, 15, 20 years, I'd love to do that. But, we'll just take it day by day and see how that goes.
No, great stuff. And obviously, I know you're very, a deep kind of family man, and you're very close with a lot of your friends. I mean, how important would you say it is to have friends and family along the journey, and who have been the most important people? And I mean, what kind of advice would you encourage people to listen to and to not listen to? Because obviously there's a lot of information out there, especially now with social media and information. I mean, your family, your friends and your peers. I mean, what information would you say is most important to take and obviously to kind of discard and move on from?
Right. First of all, I think what's helped me the most in my time here has been my family. My wife and my 3 kids, them being very supportive, and then my wife being able to rein me back sometimes and say, hey, we need some family time too. Sometimes you put a little bit too much into soccer, which is great, just to keep a balance. But you can't do 100% soccer 100% of the time. You got to have some balance. You got to take some time for yourself and for your family. So I think being able to coach my kids, my daughter and my sons as they grew up, being able to be there for them and not miss any of their games, and being able to have the support of my wife and kids during this journey has made it to where I could put more into it and be successful. As far as advice for fans and family, I think, if anybody has advice for you, listen to what they have to say. I think sometimes we have a habit of, sometimes, well, I don't need to hear it from you. You don't know much about soccer. Or, maybe somebody does know a lot about it and they've got some advice for you. I mean, listen to everything everybody has to say, and then, weigh what they have to say. And, maybe some of it may be good advice. Maybe some of it may not be good advice. But at least give somebody a listen to what they have to say to you. And then, you can make the determination whether or not you feel like that's good advice for you, or maybe it's not good advice. But, at least take a listen and take some time to think about it and say, hey, maybe I am wrong, or maybe that would help me be better at as a player or as a coach.
No, brilliant, man. I totally agree. And what advice, John, would you give to kind of parents? Obviously, parents play a massive part in children's development and players' development. Obviously, they're kind of like the most important coach, if you like. And obviously, a lot of the time, they may be very intent on helping, but maybe haven't got the know-how that's needed. I mean, what advice would you give to parents who are looking to really, try and push their kids to become the best they can be?
I think when they're young, you support them and just help them love the game. I think if you push them too much, you can push them away from the game. There's got to be a balance between, training and games, and they've got to be able to do other stuff in their life too. But as parents, we've got to be able to step back and say, hey, is my kid enjoying this, or am I pushing them too much into this? Is my kid, am I wanting my kid to be a professional soccer player, or are they wanting to be a professional soccer player? Because, if the kid doesn't want to be it, then they're not going to put in the work to be it. I think that one of the biggest things we can do is support our kids. If they want to put in the extra work, of course we encourage them to put in the extra work, but sometimes we got to be careful to walk that line of when is too much, when is not enough, as far as the support, and encouraging them to do more. But especially at a young age, just teach them, to love the game, to love the ball, to love having the ball at their feet, to love getting outside and just doing, fun games with the ball, and, enjoying the game, watching the game on TV, I think one of my enjoyable, memories with my kids is taking them to watch professional games, watch the national team play, watch the U.S. versus Mexico, big rivalry, being able to go watch that. That increases, in my opinion, increased my boys' love for the game is, being able to watch it in person and watch professionals play the game. And I think at a young age, you just got to start, a lot of parents don't have a whole lot of knowledge about soccer, so sometimes it can be a learning experience for the parents and the kids at the same time. Them both loving the game and learning the game as they go. I think just walking that fine line between when is too much, when is not enough, and just continue loving it every day.
I think you're right, mate. And I think that key words. I mean, we had Barry Farrell on the other day. As you know, very high level kind of collegiate coaching, and balance and player ownership and education were key in that talk too. And again, there is a fine line between pushing and trying to get to the level and pushing too much, because obviously people, especially young players, they can be broken, and it can be tough to kind of come back from there, and they don't want to kind of push too hard. I mean, talking about that, John, in terms of the bad times if people get pushed too hard. I mean, what's kind of been your best and worst moments in the game, and how do you deal with the good and bad?
Best and worst moments of the game. I think one of my best experiences has been able to watch my kids grow and their love for the game. My daughter played for a little while, but decided it wasn't for her, but that was okay with me. Both my boys played all the way through high school. I've got one that's playing in college, and watching them grow and love the game and attend games with me. I got to take one son over to England, and he played in the Nottingham Cup. And watching his group of kids that were actually from all over the United States actually win the Nottingham Cup for their age group was a great experience, being able to go over and while we were there, we watched Chelsea and Manchester United had some of their youth teams in it. It was just amazing watching them, their youth that were at the same age, that were in their academies, watching them play. It was just amazing. Kids at the same age, seeing the talent, the determination, and the work that they put in, and seeing where they came. Being able to tour many stadiums and watch the professional games while we were there. I think one of my favorite games, got to see the Charity Shield between Chelsea and Arsenal, but I think more enjoyable. I remember how many people Wembley holds, but the stadium was packed full. But I think an even more enjoyable game than that was when we went and watched Notts County play. And there was probably 8,000 people, but the environment there was just intense to be able to watch those professionals play. But I think watching my boys grow up and seeing them be successful and enjoy the game, and a couple of years ago seeing one of my sons score the winning goal for the district game off a set piece was a great time, really fun. I think one of the worst moments was probably a couple of years ago whenever we needed one win to advance to the playoffs, and all we needed to do was, we got into a penalty shootout with one of our district opponents and lost by 1 goal in the penalty shootout. So we missed going to playoffs by 1 goal, and that stung, but I think that increased the determination for our kids to get even better.
No, great stuff, and obviously we're talking about good and bad times. That leads on nicely to the next part in terms of mentality, John. And how important is mentality in the game of football and soccer and life in general, and kind of what mentality do you need to be able to succeed at any level, let alone the top level?
It's huge. If you can't accept failure, then soccer is the wrong game for you, because it's a game of consistent success and failure, whether you made a good pass or a bad pass. And I've seen kids come through that they make a bad pass and their head immediately drops and they just stand there for a second or half a second and being mad at themselves for making a mistake. But the game continues to go on around them. So I think mentality is huge. You've got to be able to deal with success and failure as the game goes on. You've got to be able to train your mind to be able to, deal with the failure that's within the game and the mistakes that we make, and can you move on past that? We have a program that we're doing in our school that's called the Confident Athlete, especially with kids that are in the high school age from 13 to 18 years old. They're still dealing with self-confidence issues, and how can I increase my confidence in myself as far as in normal life, everyday things, and also how can I increase my confidence in the game of soccer. So that's a program we're doing to help them increase their self-confidence, because even in the high school level, we're not a high level by any means, but even going on to college and being a professional, if being confident and having a mentality or strong mentality is the key to your success, because if you don't have strong mental aspect of your game, you'll be broken really quickly and really easily, and I don't think you'll be very successful.
No, I agree, John. Obviously, mindset and obviously that ability to adapt and whatnot is crucial. And again, you talk about different cultures and different experiences. Obviously, being able to see different mentalities and mindsets by going and watch the game of football, soccer, even on TV, or actually going to watch it live are two different things. And again, that kind of links on more now into more of the US game and the game kind of globally. Over in the States, kind of athleticism is prioritised very, very high. We can talk about diet, we can talk about ability. We've touched on mindset and score. There's a lot that goes into a player. So let's kind of talk about, John, now in terms of diet, in terms of athleticism, in terms of ability. Where do you prioritise those three things, and what would you say are most important, and why, in terms of diet, in terms of athleticism, and in terms of ability?
That's a really good question. It's one of those things that I think you have to be able to combine all of them together to be successful. I know it's hard with kids these days as far as being able to monitor what they eat. A lot of times it's the quickest thing that I can get to eat, and that's not always the best thing. So we try to encourage them and teach them about a proper diet. We bring in a sports nutritionist. We have one that works for the school, and she comes in and works with the teams and teaches them what they should and shouldn't be eating, and what a pregame meal should look like, day before a game meal should look like, and what your daily intake of water should be, and calories. And a lot of times unless you're actually doing it for the kids, a lot of them aren't getting the proper diet and nutrition that they need. That's why we started at our school, for soccer program at least, we have a room where the kids can come grab snacks or food that's healthy for them, and water and drinks that they can come in and get during the day, or if they not, a lot of times the food at school is not the best as far as what the kids like, so sometimes they'll come grab something real quick out of our office and eat it. But we've seen a lot of kids that don't understand the proper nutrition, and especially hydration in our game. Sometimes, depending on the level, kids can be running a few miles a game. And if they're not properly hydrated before the game, then I've seen numerous kids that'll get body cramps and leg cramps and massive headaches because they're not eating properly or they're not drinking the right amount of water. So obviously it's huge. And then as you get up to the collegiate and professional game, it's even bigger there. And I think as far as athleticism and ability goes, I think typically, especially in the United States compared to the rest of the world, in the past at least, we've relied on athleticism versus ability to be successful. But I think it takes a good balance between the two of them. Being athletic, obviously, I don't think you'd be very successful for very long at this game if you weren't at least somewhat athletic in any of the positions, from goalkeeper to your fullbacks and midfielders and forwards. I think all of them have a certain degree of athletic ability. Some of them a lot more than others, some of them less than others. But I think that being able to combine athletic ability with the nutrition and it all just works together, in my opinion. And I can take somebody here at the high school level that has athletic ability and has a desire and wants to play, and we can turn them into a soccer player and over a few years. And I think that those things are key, and they work really well hand in hand.
I totally agree, mate. Again, it's kind of like a chef making its finest cuisine, looking at all the ingredients that go into it to make the best footballer, the best soccer player. And obviously, ability is colossal, athleticism, mentality. I mean, if you're kind of missing one, you're going to struggle. Obviously, the more that you can do and kind of really enhance, the better you're going to be. I mean, we've touched a lot, John, there, in terms of your high school acumen, in terms of your career as a high school coach. I mean, for those that don't understand the high school program out in the States, and those that are kind of trying to get into the high school program, and in terms of your recruitment and in terms of the pathways, how would players kind of get into your high school team? Because back home in England, I know for a fact where I'm from, the secondary schools, as we call them, and it's not really a business as such. It's kind of a case where you will pick your school yourself, you'll go to where you want to go to, and you'll go there to kind of have the education, and kind of the school football, the school team is a bonus. So in terms of yourself, as actually a full-on, full-time coach, which it is, high school over here. I mean, how do you recruit players, and how do players get those pathways to kind of put themselves in your face and to kind of come and play for you and study at your high school?
That's a great question, because we're different is the way it goes over here in the States. We do have our private schools to where parents can pay and choose a private school that they want to take their kids to. And a lot of those, the level of soccer at those schools is pretty high, because they have a concentration of kids that are coming from different areas to their school to go to school and to play soccer. But for us, we're a public school. So with public schools, you have a certain geographical area of kids that go to your school. And so you can't have kids outside your area that choose, for instance, if we had somebody in Jackson that wanted to come to Petal High School, they look at Petal High School and they're like, I love it. They're the number one school district in Mississippi, and they're one of the top districts in the United States. I want to go there. Well, unless your parent works here at the school district and you're out of the area, you can't go to school here. That's the way it is with public schools. So it's a little bit more difficult as far as finding players, because we have such a small area of kids to pick from. For instance, at our school, they have different classifications for high school in the United States. It starts off at 1A, which is your smallest schools, and it goes up to 6A, which is your largest school. And we're classified as 6A, but I believe we're the second smallest 6A school in Mississippi. So just our next door city in Hattiesburg has Oak Grove High School, and they've got 400 more kids in high school than we do. So if you think about it, we're a small school, and our rival has another 600 kids to pick from versus us. So as a small school, it makes it a little more difficult, but sometimes you have to get a little bit creative. If you're looking to build a program, for instance, when we started building our program, we were looking for athletes to build a soccer program. We looked for American football players that were playing in specialty positions, the ones that were very agile, had a lot of speed. We're looking to bring those in and teach them how to be soccer players. And on the girls' side, we always looking for goalkeepers, so we'd go to the softball team. And, the girls, they were playing different positions in softball, whether it was catcher or shortstop or even third base. They have balls that are hit at them and thrown at them all the time, so they're not afraid of the ball. So we could easily turn, and we've done it many times, turn them into goalkeepers as well for the game. We have tryouts a couple times throughout the year that we advertise for, and we have kids that come to those, and that's how we pick our team every year is through our tryouts. But one of the things that we started last year was with our junior high team. Those are the kids that are maybe 11, turning 12, and some 13-year-olds. We have a program just for them, and that's kind of our academy program, to where they play at their level against kids their own age, and for a couple of years, and then when they get to our school, they've had a few years under their belt, and then they can play with us. But nowadays, a lot of our younger, in fact, most of our kids that are in that age 9 to 13, they're all playing at the club level. So the young talent that we have coming up is really good. So over the next few years, our program's going to continue to grow, continue to get better, and we're going to continue to see a lot more success. But one of the things we look for when we pick up players is, like we talked about earlier, is are you coachable? Are you determined? Are you willing to work hard? And, we can take kids like that and help them become a very successful, high school soccer player. A high school soccer player compared to possibly a club level high school player, or club level players, sometimes different. Sometimes you'll have teams that are 100% club players in high school, so they'll be very successful just because their kids are playing year round. So now that's one of the things we've dealt with in the past here in Petal, but actually is finally changing, is getting the kids to play year round in club and high school.
No, great stuff, man. Again, I think it's really interesting, especially for guys that are looking to get into high school and people around the world that will be listening, are aware, the kind of techniques that you use and the different territorial boundaries that you face. I mean, in terms of you can't go out into a different area and recruit because of the rules. And talking to someone like Barry Farrell yesterday, who's a collegiate coach and kind of recruits wherever and whatnot. Again, there's parameters there. I mean, you're actually looking to try and get the families in first. I mean, for example, if you can get kind of mum who's a teacher, or dad who's a teacher who can come and work at the school, that then kind of gives you license to be able to access their kid, which is very interesting in terms of the whole thing. And again, it sets up a very family orientated environment. And obviously, just going back to a point you spoke about before, John, in terms of the actual middle school and junior schools. I mean, obviously, as you're familiar with, and people may or may not be back home in England and around the UK and around Europe, we have academies where even myself, I was kind of picked or scouted into an academy at the age of 5, and obviously in the States it's a little bit more behind in terms of academies. But speaking about, I mean, now you're saying how you're getting exposed to kids of the age of 9 years old. I mean, in terms of your high school program, obviously back home in England, high school, secondary school is age 11 to 16, 18 now. It's kind of been extended to. I mean, what is the age range, John, in terms of actual high school, and again, what kind of exposure do you get to different kids, and how do you tailor their different programs and different ways to kind of get them to the end game of the high school and then collegiate going forward?
Yeah. Well, the high school player is generally around the age of 13, sometimes 14, and then to about 18, sometimes 19, depending on their birthday. And then, we really try and work with them as far as, daily assignments and daily training throughout the school year with us. But we there are academies around the U.S., not nearly like what you're talking about, but there's a few here, but we're way behind as far as that goes. The biggest problem with that is, for the academies here in the United States, is they are so expensive. It's basically a college tuition to send your kid to a high school academy to play. Whereas I'm not sure what it's like in England if the parents have to pay for them to go or not. But I think one of the biggest things we do here as far as, training through high school and getting ready for colleges, a lot of times throughout the year, especially in the summertime and in the college off season, we'll bring in those college coaches to run sessions with the kids and show them, hey, this is what it's like to train in college. But at the same time, it also gets those kids exposure to these collegiate coaches. Built up a lot of relationships around here with the junior colleges and even with the universities, where we'll bring them in if we have to. If they come from a distance, we pay for their stay, pay for their food, and a lot of them are more than happy to come in and work with the kids because it gives them a chance to get eyes on them and recruit kids. Last year we had 8 of our boys that signed full ride scholarships to go play collegiately. We had 2 signed this year. So I think that's been one of the biggest successes I've had is getting that relationship with the collegiate coaches and bringing them in. But we've also began a program in high school too that we teach the kids how to market themselves to these collegiate coaches. We teach the kids how to make a list of all the colleges that they're interested in. Then doing the research on these colleges. Do they have a men's soccer program? Do they have the degree program that I want to go into to play at that college? And then they start reaching out to the college coaches themselves as far as sending emails. I'm not sure how you got to the United States, if you did the recruiting company or if you sent out emails to your college coaches, but we teach them to, create that personal relationship with these collegiate coaches to where you can, find out if that coach and that college is going to be the right fit for you. And, we start them as young as ninth grade, reaching out and finding these colleges that they want to attend, teaching them to have some ownership in their career past high school, whether it's going to be, I want to have a career, going to school and playing soccer, or I want to, after high school, I want to just go learn how to be, med school, be a doctor, or a trade to be an electrician, whatever it is the kids want to do, we're here to help them because the vast majority of these kids are not going to go play in college. We'll have some that'll go play and then that's it. We've had one player out of Petal that has gone and played professionally. He went and played professionally in Peru for a few years, but now he's back coaching in the States. So I think the biggest thing that we do with the kids is help them find their life path and what they want to do after high school.
No, great stuff, John. Again, listening to you speak there, it's kind of almost like you're a father figure and an agent and whatever else as well. And obviously, again, kind of giving a bit more into my insight, mate, in terms of academy football, soccer back home. I mean, it's not a massive difference in terms of academy football at home and over here in the setup, but the way it is run is different, and again, it does have big implications. So in terms of academy football back home, academy soccer, it is free, the clubs and that they pick up the bill, but it's more focused on terms of the actual football, the actual soccer, as opposed to school. Whereas over here, I mean, even back home, if you're going to go to university and if you're going to go to college, you do have to kind of pay for that tuition, that school yourself. And in the States, whereas obviously the football side of it is still growing and the expertise is still growing, it's still in that kind of, that student athlete mode where you're kind of getting the best of both worlds for your money. So you're not just paying for the tuition which you pay for, categorically in England with the uni fees, and you're not just kind of getting the football, the soccer free as you would in academy. In the States, you're kind of getting a bit of both, where you're paying for the student side of it, and you're also paying for the football side too. And even back home, it's only really academy level that get that level of competency where the club pay for it free, because it is the elite level. If we're looking at kind of Sunday league and grassroots level, then of course it is pay to play. So the States are kind of in between that mode of academy and school, and again that's where that student athlete really kind of comes into play. Looking more about yourself, John. Obviously, we've touched a lot about your expertise in the game and whatnot. I mean, what would you be doing, John, if you wasn't involved in football and soccer and as a high school coach? I mean, where would you see yourself in the world, and what would you be doing if you wasn't in the game?
I've thought about that, and that's a hard question. That's funny. It's a short question, but it's a hard question to think about because I've been doing it for so long. I've been involved in the game since I've been 8 years old, and it's hard to see me doing anything else. I've tried looking at, a few years ago I said I'm going to retire from coaching when my youngest graduates high school, and then I just kept building these relationships with these kids as they came through our program. Like you said earlier, being a father figure, some of them don't have a dad in their home, and a lot of them do. But being able to be that person that they see, 5 out of 7 days a week, and you build a relationship with them. Honestly, I'd probably be a teacher at a school, just because I love building these relationships with these kids. and seeing them go on. I've got some kids that I've coached that are now married. A couple of them have kids now, and it's so enjoyable to see them grow up and watch them, make something out of their life. And I just enjoy being in their life and being able to be someone that they can talk to, someone that they can confide in. So if I had to, take a guess, it'd probably be somewhere in teaching.
No, great stuff, mate. Fantastic. Obviously, coming into the last few questions for you now, John. I mean, you've given us a lot of time, a lot of insight, and again, very, very grateful. I mean, in terms of yourself, again, who's the most famous kind of footballer, soccer player that you've come into contact with? I mean, again, we've had conversations about guys that you've spoken with who've played at the MS level and high level. Again, if you could just give us a bit more insight into the kind of guys that you know and the kind of guys you've been around and their expertise and insight, that would be fantastic for everyone to listen to and to be able to hear.
Yeah. Well, me and my boys were able to. We attended an LA Galaxy game years ago in Houston when Beckham was playing for LA Galaxy, and we got to shake his hand and landed on his hand. We didn't, by far don't know them or didn't get to really meet them, but other than that, but even just seeing them for a few seconds was pretty cool. But I got involved with coaching education when I lived in Texas, and a friend of mine was the director for all of Texas, and we wanted to bring a goalkeeper coaching education to San Antonio. And I said, well, why don't we get the director, Tony DeChico? I said, why don't we get him to come down? He said he would never come down here. It's too hot. Why would he come down to San Antonio? I said, just ask him. And the director was going to the yearly convention that was in Indianapolis, I think, at the time. And I said, just ask him when you're there if he'll come down here and teach a class for us. And for some that don't know, Tony DeChico was the women's coach back when the 99 team won the World Cup, the famous Brandy Chastain, where she gets the winning PK against China and takes her shirt off and has the Nike bra and then becomes a commercial for Nike. He was the coach for that team and for the U.S. women's team for a long time. Coached in the women's professional game for many years, Hall of Fame coach. He recently died of cancer a couple of years ago, but we were able to get him to come to San Antonio. He's like, you know what, I've never been to San Antonio. I'll come down there and teach. And he taught 2 classes while I was here, and then I just built a relationship with him, invited him back to teach a 3rd one, and he came back, and I got to teach the class with him, and just built a relationship with him. I've got to sit down in the evenings and have dinner with him and my family, and build that relationship where I could call him and ask him questions about things. And then he started putting me on assignments to teach classes in different parts of the Southeast where we live, and just built a relationship with him. And it was one of those times that I became a firm believer that if you want somebody to do something for you, just ask. You never know. They might do something for you. But it was through meeting him that I built a network of other professional coaches and became colleagues with them. And I'm a firm believer that it's all about who you know, but it's also about who that person that you know knows. They may know somebody else too that can that you can get in their circle and learn things from them. And I think that he's probably the most influential person as far as my goalkeeper training goes that I've met over the years.
That's very interesting. Obviously, the old age concepts of obviously if you don't ask, you don't get. And I mean, you're talking about what you know, who you know, and again the power of networking. That's what we're kind of doing now. Where a few years ago, even yourself and I didn't know each other, and we kind of became very close in the south, and we formed good relationships. And again, the power of what you know, who you know, and asking, and actually really networking and putting yourself out there, and as I say, being coachable and being kind of receptive to, or A, giving your ideas and kind of standing on authority, but then B, listen to what other people have got to say as well. And if you have disagreements, so be it. But that's kind of where you learn the most. And fantastic stories. Obviously, tragic news about Mr. It's terrible that he's passed away and whatnot, but again, the expertise that he's passed on to you have clearly been colossal, and again, we're obviously very grateful to that. I mean, just to kind of finish off, John, what kind of other advice have you got for our viewers now? Obviously, we've got players in America listening, we've got players back home listening, we've got coaches in England and all around the world, obviously the US, we've got other kind of parents who are just listening to get a bit of advice for their kids, and even guys that maybe don't know anything about football, soccer at all. I mean, what kind of advice can you give just to finish off for the wider range audience who are listening?
I think what I said earlier is just develop a love for the game. There's many people that watch the game in the United States that don't play, and even over the world that never have played or maybe played at a low level Sunday league, recreation league. I think they've said that soccer is the fastest growing sport in the world. And in the world, we've got more kids participating in soccer than any other sport. This has been growing every year. It just gets bigger and bigger. Because the game has so many aspects to it. You've got teamwork because it's not one of those games that you're by yourself. You got to rely on somebody else, and somebody else has to rely on you. So it's one of those games that teaches teamwork, self-discipline, and many aspects that also relate to life. I'm a firm believer that being a part of a team sport, whether it's soccer, basketball, baseball, that it makes you a better person or can make you a better person because it teaches you those different aspects of life. Being able to, work with other people and work out your differences, because like you said, that there's going to be times that people agree or disagree on a topic or subject, but maybe we could take a piece of what this person thinks and what you think and put it together and, come up with a different idea. But I think, soccer is one of those things that unites the world. It's obvious whenever the World Cup comes around that, just the more people that watch it and understand it and grow a love for it, it'll be better for our sport and it'll help the sport to continue to grow.
No, I totally agree. I mean, again, talking about life in the community, as I say, I mean, even for myself, football, soccer, I've been involved in it from an age. I know for a fact that, I wouldn't be where I am without it. I mean, I've taken football, soccer as my trade, really. And I mean, I speak to people and they say, oh, you're a coach or whatnot, and people that maybe don't understand it, kind of saying about getting a real job. I mean, with all due respect, I've travelled all around the world kind of with football, with soccer, with my playing experience and whatnot, and my coaching badge, and again, I further myself from the game, and as you say, the life experience that you gain from it, and the things you learn, and the people you meet because of it, like any career, but with it being the biggest sporting game in the world, which it is. Obviously, it's grown in the US and it's getting bigger and better. But I mean, rest of the world. I mean, we had Pedro Villarreal, a good friend of mine, on yesterday, and again, just the way he talks about how, in Spain and England, the birthplace of football, soccer in England, it's religion back home. People literally, that's all you do. You literally live for football, for soccer. And obviously, there is more to life, but people often wonder what that is, other than football and soccer. And again, it's great to be able to link the two and see what both can kind of teach you, because again, it is a two-way street in terms of life, giving you lessons with football, soccer, and football, soccer, giving you lessons for life too. So again, just to wrap up, John, really, really grateful, mate, for you coming on. Obviously, high school, Petal coach, and you've had a fantastic career, and we wish you every success going forward, John. And just take care, buddy, and we'll speak with you soon. All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man.